It's story time here with Dave B. Sell Chevy. This morning, I had a customer come in and she has a Traverse coming due off lease that she's only paying $399 per month on. The lease has 2 payments left and her goal is to go into another vehicle and be at that $399, meaning $400 a month, and she does not want to come up with any money down, which is pretty much the story in the way most people want to structure their deals. Little money down, lowest payment they can get. Now, when you're looking at a new Traverse like this LT in front of me here, the new lease programs in today's times, today's interest rates, and today's programs, you're really looking at something that's in the mid to upper 6s if you're not putting any money down. And we've seen payments as high as the 8s and into 9s on the higher trim levels, like an RS or even a loaded out Z71. Now, once I kind of mentioned that just to gauge where her thoughts were on those new payments, she again reiterated that she wanted to be at 400 or less and asked about the Trailblazer, which is a much smaller vehicle than a Traverse, but she said they have a Jeep lease which has a 3rd row. So a 3rd row vehicle is not something that they definitely need. Once I heard that, I asked her, how would you feel about an electric car? To which she immediately replied, no. So I then asked, why not? Is there any particular reason? And she said, we're just not ready for it. So we walked out this door, we came over this way on the lot to go over to the Trailblazers so I can show her the Trailblazers that we had. And at the moment, my car was actually parked here being plugged in and charged. As we walked, I just told her, I was like, you know, I bring up the electric vehicle because the Blazer EV has a very good lease on it right now. And based on the fact of everything I heard so far with your particular situation, I think the Blazer EV might actually make sense. I also told her that that was my personal car when it was parked there, and it's my 4th electric vehicle, and I can really have an honest conversation with her and just see, would it be something that would work for them? And reiterated that I would have no problem telling her if it wouldn't work for them. But before we got into all that, we came over here, we looked at the Trailblazers. I also showed her the Equinox, which she didn't care for. We took a look at that. We also took a quick glance at the Trax. Again, wasn't really interested in that. So it really came down to the Trailblazer and could you get a lease deal in that $400 payment range with no money out of pocket. So I gathered her information. She was a little pressed for time. I said, no worries. What I'll do is I'll put a lease deal together for you. I'll send it to you in an email, and then I'll give you a call to follow up just to kind of go over those numbers with you. And that's exactly what I did. But what I added to that equation was also a lease on this particular Blazer EV, just as a comparison. And that's what we're going to look at in today's video. We're going to do an old-fashioned would you rather between a 2024 Trailblazer lease and a 2024 Blazer EV lease. Now, it's a little bit different than the previous would you rathers because those were based on the 2 different vehicles. This is more of like a situational would you rather. If you were in the same situation, which car would you lease? So here we have the vehicles side by side. We have the refaced, interior redesigned 2024 Chevrolet Trailblazer, 3-cylinder turbo engine, 5-passenger vehicle, and we have the 2024 Chevrolet Blazer, also a 5-passenger vehicle, but with the full electric powertrain. Now this one is an LT, gives you about 279 miles worth of range on a charge. This obviously is a vehicle that'll get around 30 miles per gallon on the highway as far as fuel economy goes. They are both all-wheel drive vehicles, so if you're looking for all-wheel drive, you can get it in each of them. Now, it is important to say that the Trailblazer here is a $30,000 MSRP vehicle, and the Blazer EV that we're looking at is just over $50,000. So you have a $20,000 spread between these 2 vehicles. One of the things I'm sure to do when I'm talking to customers, especially when I'm introducing them to EV, when they have like an immediate no reaction, is I don't push it, right? So we put payments together, everything on the Trailblazer. I got everything ready in the email, but I also, again, I added the information for the Blazer EV in that lease. And it really came down to, in a sense, the customer profile and their current life situation, why I think this would work for them. And that's what I want to kind of talk about right now, because it's important to have a discussion and just be open-minded to the possibilities of this working for you. So with this particular customer, she's returning a 3-year-old Traverse lease with only 14,000 miles on the car. She said she literally drives about 2 miles from home to work. That means she's averaging just under 400 miles a month of driving. This car gets 279 miles on average of range. So realistically, you're not even charging the car 1 full time a month to be able to get to where you need to go in your normal driving habits. As long as those habits stay the same. Again, it's 3 years now that she's in that lease. This would be going into a new lease. If things change in life, that's where maybe you run into some sort of a problem. But if you don't anticipate those changes, then it's not really a big deal. Now, the second big factor is where can you charge the car? For someone that drives as little as they do, a 110 outlet is probably enough to get the charging that they would need, because if they're driving 10 or 15 miles in a day, they can do that a number of days, and then they can plug in overnight, and in 10 hours on a regular 110 outlet, you might get 35 to 40 miles worth of battery back into the car. So maybe in her normal driving, she's charging the car and topping it off every 3 to 4 days. A level 2 would definitely be recommended if you were doing anything beyond that, because it'll charge the car a lot faster. You might get 25 to 35 miles per hour of charging. And in regards to that, they do live in a house, they have a driveway, they have a garage, they have an outlet. So they can plug the car in at home. That's a very important factor here. You want to make sure your EV buyers can do that. The third question I always ask, and I feel is very important, is this your only vehicle, or do you have other vehicles in the family? In this particular case, they also have a Jeep lease. It's got 3 rows, it fits the family, it's a gas vehicle. So if you're doing any kind of road trip or anything that would take any kind of charge planning, you don't have to do that. You can just hop in the gas car and take the gas vehicle. So what we just did with those 3 questions was we realized there is no range anxiety based on the mileage the car will most likely be driven. There is no charging anxiety because they can charge the car at home, not to mention maybe at work or at public stations, but they can charge it at home. And then the third thing is they don't have to rely on a vehicle because they do have another vehicle that they can drive if they're going, let's say they're driving from Jersey to Florida, or they're going down the Jersey Shore and they don't want to have to worry about not having enough range. They can just take the gas vehicle, but on a daily basis, they can drive the electric. Now, let's just touch on the number one reason in my experience people are buying electric vehicles. It's not politically motivated. It's not environmentally motivated. It's not motivated by really much of anything other than money. Again, it's not every situation, but the vast majority of the people I deal with, they'll go with an electric vehicle over a gas vehicle because it makes sense for their daily life, which I think we can agree in this particular case with this particular customer, the car will work for her daily life. It also saves you a ton of money. So what are the dollars and cents? Now, based on the way we structured the lease for this particular client on this Trailblazer, now this is an LT, this is an example of it. The one we priced up actually has the convenience package and the cold weather package, so it's slightly more expensive than the one you're looking at here, but it is just over $30,000 as an MSRP. First payment only with the rebate she qualifies for, the price we're selling it for, the mileage she needed, $415 and change for the Trailblazer. Taking all the same parameters into consideration, first payment only, the mileage she needs, the rebate she qualifies for, the fact that there is no sales tax in New Jersey right now on an electric vehicle, the fact that the federal $7,500 rebate is incorporated into that lease, she can lease this $50,000 Blazer EV for $399. $16 a month less for the $50,000 car than the $30,000 car. And I should probably let you know, this is a 36-month lease on the Trailblazer. It's a 24-month lease on the Blazer EV. Now, the 24-month lease, I think, is actually a good thing to do in this situation because you're not stretching it out far, right? It's a quick 2 years. If it doesn't work, you go back to a gas vehicle. If it does work, you got a good little short experience with an electric vehicle, and maybe in the next 2 years, maybe the economy's different, maybe the market's different, maybe interest rates drop, maybe she goes out of this Blazer EV and goes into the new Traverse, or a 2020, what would be a 2026 Traverse, for a better payment than what we have in today's current economy, today's current market. So the question to you, again, based on everything you just heard, based on really the situation that we're dealing with, what would you do? Would you lease the Trailblazer for $415 a month, or would you go with the Blazer EV for $399 and have to give up Apple CarPlay?